This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow.
Hey, what's up guys? Will here. Welcome back to Modeling from the Ensign's Chair. This is episode 2 of the NX-01 Enterprise build, 1/350 scale. And to start this episode off, I want to go back and backtrack a little bit because I did get both of the antenna controls and the Trek modeler lighting kits work properly. A little bit of a mistake on my part. So I'll go back over that and we'll take a look at the effects on the two Bussard collectors here, and we'll get a chance to take a look and see what they look like. I didn't really wire up the strobes or the navs because I'm going to assume they're about the same, but the way they do their Bussard effects is a little bit different, so I want to take a look at that. And I also got the two halves of the primary hull painted to my satisfaction the way I think it looks good. I think Brian's going to appreciate it, so we'll take a look at all that, and I've got a couple other things I'm going to take a look at in this episode, so I'll try not to make it as long as the last episode, but I got a lot of stuff to go over, so give me a minute, put you on the table, we'll get to work. Alright guys, so I've got both these boards set up so we can take a look at the Bussard effect on it, and like I said, I'm assuming that the navs and the strobes are pretty much going to be about the same. They may blink at a slightly different rate or that, but I'm not too worried about that. But I just wanted to see how each of these boards implemented the Bussard effect was my main thing. And in the last episode I couldn't get the Trek modeler board to work, and that's my fault. If you'll remember, I was talking about it's got two momentary switches. One is for the weapons, which activates your phase cannons and the torpedoes. The other one just says it's a secondary switch. So anyway, I emailed Trek modeler and I got a response back within 24 hours, and so there was a pretty good response, and it was on a Sunday that I got the response. So pretty good to get the response from them that quick and on a Sunday. So they told me that the momentary switches do need to be connected. Now the weapons one didn't need to be connected necessarily, but I figured out that this secondary switch probably had something to do with the issue I was having, and sure enough I hooked it up and the board worked fine. So and I did hook up a strobe to see if I was getting power from that side, and I am. Everything seems to be working good on that. And I also had an issue with and I didn't really notice this last video, but I also had an issue with the antenna controls board. What I noticed was two of the LEDs on the Bussard board weren't lighting up. It was just the four of them were, and two of them weren't. And so I emailed antenna controls and got a response from them as well within 24 hours and on a Sunday as well. So great customer service between both boards. And basically there's a note. I was told, look at page 2, dummy. No, they didn't say that. But bottom of page 2 makes a note, different cable companies swapped green and white wires on the connectors. So when you look at the wiring diagram, it shows the two LEDs on the board that weren't lighting up are controlled by the white wire coming off the board. Well, come to find out, that white wire, when you read that note, is actually on this board a green wire. So once I swapped those two wires out, now all the lights are working on there. So again, great customer service from both companies. I did email, also let Trek modeler know that they forgot to send me my, that's the other momentary, they forgot to send me my toggle switch, and they had already noticed that they had forgotten to send it, and I had already mailed it out to me. And as a consolation for delay in getting that switch, they even sent me out a roll of blue strip tape to use for the warp nacelles on mine. So that was pretty cool of them. So I appreciate that. So now I've got all my parts. both our boards seem to be working well, and let's just take a look at them and make sure that I don't have anything contacting that shouldn't be contacting here. Here's both my bustered boards. No wires touching that shouldn't be touching. And these come pre-stripped. What I did was, to make sure I didn't ground anything out, was I cut the I cut the ends off so nothing would be bare to be touching except for the wires I need to connect. So let's take a look at this. Alright, we got that, and then I just press my momentary switch and the board comes up for the truck modeler board. So, and I'm going to take this camera out so I can get a closer look at it. I don't want to move the boards because I got bare wires out right now. And we'll just move the camera down a little bit. But the camera overexposes it a little bit. You can see the different effects. The board from Tenor Controls is more of a pulsing, spinning effect, whereas the one from Trek Modeler is more of a purely spinning effect. And they both look really good. They do a little bit of a different implementation. The one from, I'm definitely going to have to do a little more diffusion on these domes for the Trek Modeler board, but that's not a big deal. I'll probably have to put a little bit of white on the inside of the domes to maybe diffuse that light a little more. And the light, or the buzzards from Tenor Controls, are pretty well diffused. I may have to do just a little bit more on those. But they both look pretty good to me. So again, we've got the LED strips already attached on the board from Tenor Controls. And for the Trek Modeler board, well, now they've done sent me this roll of blue LED strip tape. I may or may not use it, but I'll take a look at that when I get around to my build. But that's the boards, the two boards for you. Trek Modeler and or the Trek Modeler on the left and the Tenor Controls board on the right. And really, like I said, the only consideration as far as the main difference between them is that the Tenor Control board doesn't include the phase cannons or torpedo effects. You got to buy that board separately. It's like another $110-ish, and that one does have sound though. The Trek Modeler board comes with the lights for the phase cannons and the torpedoes, but it doesn't have sound. And the other main thing is that Tenor Controls is a complete package. It comes with everything you need to light your ship up. And the Trek Modeler, if you keep your own stash of LEDs and resistors, you're good to go. There's no problem. But if you don't have any of that and you don't keep a stock of it and you don't want to, and you want to just get a full, total, complete package to be able to do your ship, Tenor Controls will be the way to go for you. I like the Trek Modeler board because, like I said, I keep a stock of the resistors and of the LEDs, and I don't have a problem with the fact they don't come with it because it includes my phase cannons and torpedoes. Whereas, so I don't have to pay for that extra board from Tenor Control. So, you know, it's depending on which one's more important to you, what are the features you're looking for. So there you have it with those. They both look pretty good, and we'll get those installed and hooked up. Well, at least the Tenor Controls one, the Trek Modeler one will be for my build later on. So I did get the two sections of my hulls, my hull, my primary hull, the saucer repainted, and I definitely like the lighter silverish color, and I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up. It does have a little bit. I did use, like I said, I used the Deco Art Dazzling Metallics, which you can get, I believe, at either Michael's or I'm trying to think if the Deco Art is one of the ones that you can't get. I think you got to go to Michael's to get that. But it's the Deco Art Dazzling Metallics acrylic paint shimmering silver is what I used for the base. And then, like I said, I came back over it with a light dusting of this Anita's Metallic Craft Paint, the titanium gold. And I was looking at the painting instructions that come with the model, and it actually calls for titanium gold on your thrusters there. So that actually works out that I've already got it. But I just did a light dusting of it, and depending on the light and the angle you look at it, it does pretty good as far as having that, giving you that effect of having a mainly silver, but giving those kind of brownish bronze undertones to it. So, like I said, I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but it turned out pretty well. As far as I just want to talk about real quick the lighting on this. Now, there are a couple things you need to drill out, and you're going to want to do this before you paint. Now, I had a couple I missed, which you may or may not be able to see. Up here around the bridge, you got those 3 spotlights, and I forgot to drill those before I painted. So I had to come back and drill those, and I messed up just a little bit on this one, so I filled it a little bit with the with my Tamiya putty, and I'll have to come back and do a little bit of light sand into that and touch it up, and we should be good to go. But just to point out, so when you're looking to light this, there's a couple different lights. You've got your lights that are steady on, and you've got your lights that strobe or that blink. So you've got on both sides of your dish here, you've got your nav lights. Now they blink at a slow rate. Now behind that you've got a smaller hole here, which at first I thought was for strobes, but actually these little white lights are steady on. So these don't blink that I've seen from watching the show. So you've got a blinking nav light, but a steady on white light, smaller white light behind it, up here. And up the front here, you've got to drill out. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this on camera, but you got some very small holes up here under this hood. Now, I think you can see them. You got 3 on each side. Now, these 2 are definitely red on the outside, these 2 close together. This one here I've seen people doing green, but when I look at the CGI renders and I look at the show, this is blue. So I'm going to light these red on the outside, blue on the insides. And that's why I'm going to do that. And then you've got to drill out also, and you can see how small these holes are. You got to drill this very small hole here for the spotlight to shine out over where your insignia is going to be. So that's got to be drilled. And then over top of your cargo bays, you've got a very small hole on each side to drill. So you got one there and then one on this side. And then, like I said, over top of your or under your bridge, below your bridge, you've got a very small spotlight here that needs to be drilled, and it's between, you'll see these 2 little notches, like a little notch here. That spotlight goes right in the middle there. Now on this side I messed up a little bit because I was assuming that it was supposed to be in between the notches on this side too. But it's not. When you look at the CGI renders, it's actually back here, and there's a little bump on each side. And that's where the spotlight goes for this side, because it should shine out right over top of where this other piece is we're going to fit in later. So you got those 2 lights on each side, the one in the front here to drill. And as far as the top part, that should be about it. We do need to drill a hole. There's a blue light on each of these parts here, which we're going to have to drill out. But I've got to get the part out and fit it up and see where that hole needs to be drilled exactly. So we'll talk about that later when that time comes. And as far as the top part, I think that's it for now as far as needing to drill additional holes. Now on the bottom, your strobe and navs are the same as the top. You've got blinking nav, a steady on white light behind it. So, oh, and I did forget to mention too on this that your strobe is right behind the bridge here. It's already drilled. It's already open for you, so you don't have to drill that. So that hole's there, but that's your only strobe on the top part of the saucer. And on the bottom here, you do have these holes back here which are already present, but if you look at the CGI renders and you want to be really detailed, there's 3 additional lights in between here. So we should have, I got to look and see exactly where they're at. I know there's one in the middle, and I think they're about halfway up or something. I got to look at them. But you're going to have to drill those yourself. And let's see, this light's here. And there may be something else. I got to look back. We did have to drill out, again, for your cargo bays, very small hole here for your floodlight there. But other than that, I think that's about it for the bottom part. So I've got those drilled out. I'm going to look at and get the holes drilled for these 3 lights that are supposed to be in the middle here as well, and then I'll see if there's anything else that needs to be drilled out. So that's where I'm at with that. And I've got I got the parts here to start working on the interior lighting, so that's what I'm going to start working on next. I'm going to drill those holes, make sure I've got all the holes drilled that need to be drilled on these. I need to work on light blocking my other parts and getting them painted to match up the outside of this. And that's about it. And I've got some LEDs I ordered. And I ordered my LEDs from LED Supply. And I've had no problems with these LEDs from LED Supply. I actually ordered some stuff that I hadn't used before. They package it really nice. And what I've ordered is a receipt. What I did was I'm going to try some of these. I've got a supply of the warm white, and this is 3 feet that I ordered of the IP20. And I get this stuff, I usually get in the warm white, I just get the standard LED strip tape. But in the usually in the cool white, this is cool white, I'll get the standard density, and this one here is actually double density in the cool white. So you can see here, these are both cool white, and you can see the difference there hopefully through the packaging. You know, how many LEDs are in the standard and how many are in the double density. So this is single density, this is double density. But the reason I do that is because typically your older ships are going to use, a lot of people will say they use warm white for the interior lighting on your older ships, like your original series, this ship. But when you get to your refit ships, your next generation, you tend to use like a cool white or a neutral white. And the reason why I get the cool white and these 2 different densities is because it's more expensive for the double density. It's like double the price almost for the double density. So for the interior lighting, it doesn't really make sense to use double density because you're not worried about hot spots necessarily on interior lighting. So I tend to use these on my warp chiller grills, things like that, where I'm worried about hot spots forming. These kind of help knock those out when you use the double density because they're closer together. Whereas the single density, you tend to get a lot more hot spots. So that's why I order them that way. And I don't typically use warm white for my warp chiller grills. So that's why I only get that one in the single density. And then something new I ordered is this RGB LED tape. And instead of shining or lighting up from the top, you can see on your standard LEDs, you know, your LEDs are pointing up. If you put this down in the saucer, it's going to be facing straight up. Well, this strip tape here actually shines the light sideways. So if you're trying to light, say, particularly your edge lights or your edge windows, this is good stuff to use in theory, and I haven't used it yet, but it seems like it's probably good stuff to use. I got to experiment with it a little bit. I've got the connector and the wireless controller for it, and I think that's something I'm going to experiment with and try out, and you know, see what kind of uses I can get out of it. So just a couple things. I'll put the link down below for where I get this strip tape from. You can buy it in various lengths. I usually just get it in 3 feet at a time because it takes me so long to do a build that I'm really not worried about having a whole bunch of this stuff. But you know, if you want to keep a lot of stuff in bulk, you can order from there. You can get 6 feet, 12 feet, I think, a couple different sizes. But that's it for that part. What I want to do now is I want to go back. I want to finish drilling those other windows. I'm going to start working out my interior lighting for the saucer. I'm going to get my other parts light blocked and painted to match. And then we'll come back and we'll take a look at where we're at. So give me a little bit and we'll be back. Alright guys, so welcome back. So I've gotten a bit of the work done on this internal lighting, and I've kind of broken the lighting down into 3 different stages. The first stage I wanted to do the internal lighting, which is the LED strips and that. Second stage I want to come in and I've started tackling some of these lights that are not part of the antenna controls kit. So I'm working on those now, and then once I get done that, then I'll be ready to start working on the antenna controls lighting parts for the strobes and navs and all the other lights that come with it. But I just want to talk about for a second here. So just to go over what I've done is I've got all my LED strips laid out, and I've got the magnet wire. I use magnet wire to run these from each strip. So I've done this lighting in parallel instead of in series, and if you don't know what that means, series is basically this is a new technique I'm doing. I've seen Boyd on TrekWorks do it, and I decided to give it a try. This build, usually when I do my builds, I do them in series, which means that basically you run the power wire to one end of the LED strip, and then you run from the other end of the LED strip, and you just keep daisy chaining basically around. The problem with that is if you lose power or you lose the connection at one, you lose the rest of those lighting strips. So I like the way that Boyd did his. I'm going to try it on this one, and it seems to be working out pretty well. So basically the parallel, you run your wiring off of each LED strip, and what I've done is I've joined them. I basically wired them up, and in sets of 3 I merged them together using this ribbon wire that comes with the antenna controls kit. And so I've done that in sections of 3, one here, and one here, and then I joined them all together right up here at the back end of the saucer section. So now what I've got is I've just got these 2 wires to power all the LED strips, and I'll show you real quick what that looks like. And there we go. And that's just being powered off a 9-volt battery, so actually it's not as bright as it's going to be when it's hooked up to the 9-volt power source going straight into the wall jack. So it's actually pretty bright even without that. But like I said, it'll be even brighter once I get that hooked up. But I wired these all together, and one tip I'll say, when you start doing these wires and you start having these wires left, what I like to do is take my Sharpie, and I've got a red and a black Sharpie, and I'll mark the positive and the negative on the end with a black and red Sharpie. So that way, once you start getting into this, and some of these, when you start worrying, it gets kind of hard to trace them. You don't have to worry about tracing back which one's negative, which one's positive. You just mark the end of the wires, and that way, you know, it's pretty easy to tell which one's negative, which one's positive. So so I got stage 1 complete. I've got the LED strips set up. They're all good to go. I do have to do a light test on, make sure that I've got enough light. I'm pretty sure I do, because I basically used the whole 3-foot roll that I bought inside of this the saucer here. So I've done that. What I'm working on now is those holes I drilled out. Drilled the holes out for those lights in the front under the hood here. So I'm working on those, and then I've also got to do the spotlight on the deck, and they're all done basically. I basically do all my lights like that the same way. I use the what did I say, this was 0.075, I believe, fiber optic. Yeah, 0.075 millimeter fiber optic. And what I do is, or what I've done with these, if you can see, is I basically, for like I said, I was going to do red and blue, because to me that's what it looks like when you look at the CGI rendering of the actual model they used, CGI model they used, and also when I watch TV series, to me that looks like red and blue, not red and green. But you know, to each his own. You can do it whichever way you think it should look, but that's the way I think it should look. So what I did was, since there's only 2 blue lights, I took one blue. Let me get my pointer so I can get my hand out the way. I took this one blue LED, and what I did was I drilled a small hole, 2 small holes on either side of the LED, and I ran this piece of 0.75 fiber optic. And to do that, what I use is a 1/32 drill bit from my Dremel drill bit set, and put it into my pin vise here, and basically, and it's it can be a pain in the butt, but I take this 3mm LED, and I've already drilled this one, but basically I'll start on one side and start drilling it. I've got a hole on this side, and I've got another hole already drilled on this side. So I'll get those drilled, one on each side, and then I'll take my fiber optic and we'll cut a piece off here. And we'll cut it in half so we have two pieces. And basically what I do is I just, what those holes let me do, and you don't want to drill those too deep because you don't want to drill into that diode. And every time after I drill it, I take my battery and just, and I haven't marked this one yet, but I test it out, make sure that that LED is still working before I go any further. But so don't drill it too deep, but you want it enough to where you can take your fiber optic here and just basically stick it in, and it's going to stay in there. And this is not the final step to that, but you want it to hold in there. And we'll take this other one. And there we go. So we got both our fiber optics sticking out of that. And what I'll do now is I'll hot glue it in place, but you don't want to put the hot glue directly on these fiber optic pieces here because they're so thin that that hot glue will basically just destroy them. So typically what I do is I'll take my hot glue gun. And if I can get these to stay in here. Of course, now that I'm trying to do this on camera, I probably don't want to fall out. What I'll do is I'll put a bead on there, not on the filament itself, but I'll put it on the LED. And I'll just let that hot glue kind of run over. It'll run over and make contact with that. Now this might start to, it might look like these fiber optic filaments will start to deform a little bit, but just don't touch them. Just let it sit there, let the hot glue kind of harden up some. And you can see they'll kind of move a little bit. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but they look like they're loose. They're basically melted right now. And if you touch them, that part will just fall apart and it'll come out. So you just leave it there, let that hot glue kind of set up. And once it starts to set up a little bit, I'll put another bead on the other side and just kind of let that come down. And like I said, you'll see them collapse like that. It's okay. It's not, they will be okay. Just don't touch them, because if you touch them and you'll break that filament and you'll have to start over. So you just leave them there, and we'll kind of let that hot glue set in, and you almost get like a light bulb shape down the bottom here from it. But we'll let that set up a second. And like I said, don't touch the film, don't touch the fiber optic part itself, because like I said, it'll pull apart right now because it's basically melted. But as long as you don't mess with it and you let that hot glue kind of set up, what you'll end up with is both of these pieces kind of encased in that hot glue and attached to the LED bulb. You can see it's starting to set up now because these will stick straight out. So we'll let that harden up a little bit more. I'm going to lay these down because the hot glue is pretty much hardened up to where it's not going to stick to anything else right now, but we want to wait until it's opaque in color, and then we'll know that hot glue is dry. They do have hot glue guns that are kind of like a cool, you can do it at a lower temperature, so that might be better to use on something like this. I haven't bought one of those yet. I've had this Shore Bonder for probably 2 years now, and that's what I've been using. But I may have to look at one of those ones where you can actually adjust the temperature setting on it for situations like this where I need like a lower setting to where it's not going to melt like a fiber optic piece. But it's almost there. We'll give that another minute. And but I'll basically do the same thing with that. I'll take, and I was saying, you know, I keep a collection of these. I keep a stash of these. I'm getting a little low on my whites, so I might have to order some more of these. Get a little low on my white 3mm bulbs. But for those side spotlights and for this front one, so I'm going to need 3 more of these. And I'll do 1 each for each of these spotlights for both sides, for the cargo bay spotlights and for the spotlight that's coming out the front, that we can hopefully get to light up the registry a little bit, but we'll see. But one thing I did want to mention too, I talked about while that's drying, on the bottom here, I had talked about there were some more lights in the center part here between these, I guess where the shuttle pods come out. There's actually 4. There's 2 here and then 2 here. And I've decided not to drill those because when I looked at it, my drill bit that I use for that .075 fiber optic, it would basically, there wouldn't be a hole. This is too narrow here for that to work. And if I use a much smaller drill bit, I don't think you're really going to get much light out of that. So I think scale-wise, we'll just leave that alone, and we'll just, you know, work on these 6 lights around it. If I come back to something later, I'll let you know, but I think right now we'll just leave that alone, unless I come up with a different solution for that. But other than that, I did drill. There are 3 holes around this lower sensor dome that are supposed to be lit, and they're not already open. So I did pre-drill those with my same drill bit that I've been using for fiber optics. I don't know if I'll run fiber optic there, or if I'll just fill it in with my UV resin. We'll see. I'll take a look at it. I think the UV resin, I might just get enough. You don't want these to be very bright. When you look at it in the, see if I can pull up the picture here. But I'm talking about, I don't know how the camera's picking this up, but you've got these 3 lights around the lower sensor dome that are very dim. They're not very bright, so I think I might just fill that with my UV resin and let the internal light those and see how it looks, and then go from there. But you can see also while I'm looking at it, these are the other lights on the back of the where the shuttle bays, the shuttles come out, and they're very small, as you can see. So I think I'm not going to worry about those. We'll just stick with what we got right now. Alright, so this is set up by now, and I've already drilled my holes in the front here, so I'll get these run through, and I'm also going to get the white light done, and we'll come back and we'll take a look at how that looks on the front there. So give me a couple minutes, we'll be back. Alright guys, so got this all wired up now. I've got, it's a little bit of a mess still. I gotta sort these wires out and secure them with some hot glue, but it's all wired up. You can see I've got, for the front here, I've used 2 reds. Each of those has 2 fiber optics running out. I use 1 blue, which has 2 fiber optics running out, 1 for each side, and then I've got this white LED for my spotlight here. And let's flip this over and take a look at how this looks. If I can do this. That's where it would come in handy to have some alligator clips. Let me turn this light off. Probably make it a little easier. But there we go. So that's what that's going to look like. We got that spotlight. If I can get this to stay on. We got this spotlight. It's going to give us a little light. I don't think it's going to light it up a whole lot unless you turn out all the lights, but it's looking pretty good, I think. I like the way it looks. So that's how that's going to turn out. So got some more lights to hook up yet. Still have the 3 spotlights around the bridge here, and the spotlight over each of these cargo bays I got to do. So I'm going to be working on those, and I've also got the other parts primed up. I'm going to go out and put the first coat of paint on those and start working on those. So hopefully next episode I'll have this part wrapped up and be ready to start working on the antenna controls board and lighting, and we'll start working on the warp nacelles and all that stuff will be ready to go as soon as I can start getting to that point. So so far I think it's looking pretty good. I like the way it's turning out, and hopefully Brian, hopefully you're pleased with it. You're the one I'm doing this for, my man. So hopefully everybody's found some of this information useful. Again, like I always say, you know, if you want to get the updates automatic, please hit the subscribe button below. But you don't have to subscribe, but if you don't subscribe, at least hit that like button. Let me know how I'm doing if you find any of this information useful. But as always, until next time, keep modeling.